Okay, hello, and this is going to be just apropos of nothing, just randomly. I'm going to be changing settings and stuff. I'm going to be trying to make things work in just out of nowhere. I have done no testing, no nothing. But hey, I just saw an opportunity to do something weird, and thought I'd take that opportunity. So right now we have two streams running. This is hotkey work please. This is multitwitch, right? And I'm watching two people streaming. So I like Age of Empires Online, right? It's not the perfect game. Some of the weirdities of the control, the oddities of the control are things that when I'm playing them I really didn't get into. But the game itself is really good, right? Pity it had all those odd early free-to-play problems, which meant that it eventually got shut down. But it's a super cool game, and there's this remake of it, right? Not a remake, a fan remake, like where they've got the servers going again, they've got the game running, and so you can have multiplayer and stuff, which is crazy complex because it's like it's designed to be like an MMO style game and all this sort of stuff. So it's a pretty crazy amount of work they've done, and I never got to commentate that much because there weren't enough players for me to play regularly against people who didn't already know all of the things and all of the builds and the strats from years and years ago. And I had a lot of what they called, like I guess it would be what's that thing in that always annoys me in Rainbow Six Siege? NAT type problems, I guess, where I had to open ports and then it would let me play, and then I was like tested it and I played some games and it was all working, and then the next day Carnage would be like, come commentate a thing with me, and I'd come on and I wouldn't be allowed to join, the ports do wrong and stuff, and so I never ended up getting as much into the game as I would like to, and now I don't have enough time to play the RTSs that I were playing at the time. So starting an entirely new RTS, one that has its problems being a fan remake, sort of doesn't seem like a great idea. Hopefully, with all the remasters going around, we'll get an Age of Empires Online remastered. That would be sick. Probably not going to happen, but that would be sick. But anyway, so I saw these two people. I saw these two people streaming and thought, hey, I could do a Ghetto stream. I could do a Ghetto recording of commentating this match. So we have in the left, as you've been seeing them hopping around all this time, we have Striker. I am Striker Eureka. Good player, good guy. Played him in a lot of smaller RTS games. Seen him. He plays all of the RTS games. This guy, he just wants to compete in all of them, and doing this expand. We see this sort of fast expand up to the north. I have no idea how fast it is actually. This might be looking at Age of Empires Online and how long I've been waffling at the beginning of this is probably like quite a reasonably normal expand timing. Interesting placement though that he's doing it so far away from his base. It's kind of cool. And then over here we have, as you can see in the top left, Trollicles. Many people, Trollercules. Many people know him more. There's his expand going down. Many people know him more as Carnage. He is right now working on the War Party team. Oh, he's quite harassed here. This is some good job from Striker, just keeping this from going down. But he's got it up now. So here's the thing. Obviously, we're seeing two people's perspectives. It's not the greatest thing always to see. You're going to see a lot of jumping about. I'm not going to be able to focus on anything too particularly. I'm not going to be able to look at the names of things. And as I said, I don't know this game very well, so I don't know the names of things or any of the builds or anything. Being in-game makes it much easier to, click on things and see the name at the bottom slyly without people noticing that I'm checking what their name is. And, I'm going to see things like this, right? Like hopping and jumping and selecting things, and we can't really get. I mean, I could put volume on, but then we get this sort of thing. Right. Oh no, go away. Which when you're playing at this sort of level, right, you block that stuff out, you get used to it. But when you're just watching, stuff's really annoying, right? Stuff's really annoying. Because when you're playing, it helps the game feel more, you know, more responsive. You know, you click on something and it makes a little chuk, and then, you know, you click on something else, it makes a little ching, right? And it feels good. It makes sense. But when you're not the one clicking on it, it just sounds like a bunch of noise, and it's annoying. So, I'm just going to record this without any game sound. But yeah, so I do know at least what factions they're playing. Striker is playing the Persians, which I don't think I ever played, because even when I went back to it, I mainly played the factions that I knew for the most part. But I believe they're just sort of a pretty basic, pretty normal faction. And then we have Egyptians. Egyptians in the right, who are someone I did play, because Egyptians were my favourite faction to play in Age of Mythology. And I remember when Age of Empires Online came out, I was like, right, let's go, I'm going to be an Egyptian boy. You can see my favourite units in the game right here. They've just run off the screen. Once again, I can't choose where the camera goes, but you got the camels, dude. The camel knights are the greatest. Everyone loves camels. Camels are adorable. They got those humps. Right, you got this chariot boy as well. Chariot boy is pretty cool. And, you know, this is, you know, pretty standard. Both sides are just expanding. You can see a lot of harassment going on here. This is one of the good things about this game, is that you do get, at least when you see good players playing it, you get a lot of early harassment. Like, a few units can do so much if used well, that it means that you do get these early situations where you have to keep your economy up, you have to spread out more than you can defend. This is actually a thing. Seeing as this is going to be slightly easier than actually commentating what's going on, this might become a bit of an RTS rant show, where I'm just talking about design. But this is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't get, and I really get annoyed at when people are talking about RTS games and they're like, oh, you know, I want there to be more like turrets and stronger towers and defensive options. But the problem is, if you have good enough defensive options, you just can't attack. And if you just can't attack, like, if right now, if right now Striker could have turrets around all of his base and have everything protected by defensive structures, then why would Carnage be attacking? He wouldn't. He'd just back off, and he would just have he would just go, he's building defensive structures, so I won't build defensive structures, so I'm not as many, to get a slight economic edge. And you get into games like that where defending is too easy, and so you just sit. Dawn of War 3, I think, had this problem because of the turrets. The turrets were so strong that why would you ever attack? You know, you just hold enough positions that you have a slight economic edge over your opponent, and then you just sit and defend with all your good defensive options. Whereas in a game like this, you're forced to spread out further than you can defend, right? Safely. And so you're forced to put yourself in a position where you will take some damage. It's also a thing about workers. You can see how many workers, this is just at one base doing lumber, you can see how many workers there are here. And this does make it harder. It puts more of a strain on people's macro, which obviously more casual players don't like as much. But the thing that I think makes it good, and has always mean I prefer this over games like C&C, right, where they have less workers, less harvesters, you know. I love that little micro as well. The garrison ungarrison micro is one of those cool little things where it's like, it's slightly quicker, so you should do it, but it's sort of, you wouldn't think to do it normally. It's slightly out of the ordinary. But yeah, having the many workers means that Carnage can bring those camels up in striker space, and he can kill a load of workers. But killing a load of workers gives him a load of little advantages. But because you have so many workers, losing 10 workers is bad, but it's not the end of the world because you have so many. Whereas in something like C&C, I experienced this as well playing sort of CNC-like games, it was quite evident in 8-bit armies because there were different levels of it. But to be more simple, things like Forge Battalion more recently and stuff like that, when you have less workers, it means that if you do a little bit of harassment and you can't kill a worker, you just do health damage to a worker, then that's essentially done nothing to your opponent's economy, and you just lost units for nothing, right? Or expended attention and APM for nothing. Whereas if you have a ton of little workers, then it's kind of cool because you can get those little harassments early on. And like I said, they've spread out to the point where they have to spread out to keep their economy up to a point where they have more space than they can easily defend. So they're going to take some damage. But it's always the thing, when I went back to play Brood War, I noticed, is that one of the differences I felt from a lot of the more modern games I was playing was that in a game like 8-bit, I was playing in order to never take damage. In a game like Brood War, I knew I was going to take damage at some point. Like, I could not fully stop myself from ever taking damage. And you just have to accept that sometimes they're going to get a drop in your base and that's going to kill a load of your workers. But it's fine because you just keep macroing, you just keep playing, and they do some damage to you, you do some damage to them, you win in this way, they win in that way, and you just, you keep battling out. And I think that's one of the things that this game shows as good RTS design, which it does, is being able to take those small little advantages. It also leads to pretty cool sprawling bases you see with all these houses just slowly spreading out. You really do end up looking like a civilization by the end of these games. It's pretty cool. So now we're sort of more deep into the game. We saw that sort of great harassment from Carnage earlier. But it seems like it's been held off. We actually have a pretty good situation here where we can look at both players' statistics quite well. Although the darkening of the edges of the border by Twitch is a little bit annoying. I can make it go away. There we go. So, we have about 80 workers on Striker side, and we have about 60 on Carnage's side. So Carnage going with less workers, but he does seem to have the much larger army, so it looks like he's looking to make some damage here before... Yeah, if that's the whole of Striker's army, then Carnage army definitely looks more fearsome. He's definitely... and we've seen he's been the one... Apart from that really early game, he's been the one on the aggressive side, making all the damage. Got some watchtowers going down here on the right as well from Carnage. Going into that late game period now in these games where people are setting up walls and getting that sort of more traditional AoE looking setup. And eventually we're going to see, what are they called? Trebuchets or whatever. I don't think they have straight up trebuchets in this game. It's set in the ancient world, so obviously that's not a thing. But they have some crazy ballistas type stuff. Got the double thick walls there for Striker on the right. Carnage is trying to take some more control over the middle of the map a bit more. Ooh. We have a similar thing there from Striker, pushing out, making some buildings quite far out into the middle of the map there. Notice that his wall's getting attacked to the side here, so he's going to move to defend that. Big map with this. One of the things a big map with these stretched out bases leads to is that sort of, you get an attack on one side of your base, you just have to let it do some damage while you wait, And obviously it's going to take a little while to get through the walls, but this is something else I like. You see that small group of cavalrymen almost broke through those walls, whereas in Age of Empires, those cavalry would have never broken through those walls. They would have needed catapults, needed some sort of siege to get in there. Now, unfortunately, he is going to lose all those, which actually seems like it would put Carnage in a decently bad position, because he's just lost a load of units for wall damage, which is, very little in the grand scheme of things. Hopefully, Carnage noticed those buildings, because you saw slightly there on Striker screen, if you can pay attention to both of them, that Striker noticed that Carnage's forces were moving past there, and it looks like Carnage didn't quite notice, although they should be in his minimap now because he's pushed up to attack these walls. Again, we can't really look at the action too well, but it seems like there we go. He noticed, and he had pulled back. I thought he had, but I wasn't certain. He's just moving into the middle of them to see quite how many there are. The enemy cavalry has arrived here, so he doesn't really want to fight in there too much, but he's going to pull the cavalry towards him with his infantry there, so that he can make sure he's hitting all of these cavalry, and that none of his chariot archers there are targeting the buildings. As long as there are units in their range, they shouldn't. So now we have those big, I think they're cataphracts, the strong cavalry there at the front from Striker, still holding off against these warriors, but the warriors are doing their job. They're just holding out all the tanking that they need for these catapult archers to hit at the back. And Striker will start to retreat now, which means that after picking off these last few units that are still too close, Carnage can do some damage to these buildings. He's going to push forward and try and destroy the foundations for that tower, which is a smart idea. Make sure he can't get any defenses. On Striker's side, we can see that he started building over the other side of the map. He has that fort going up right in the middle of the map, really pushing out in a strong stride to take territory there. And he has another fort going up by this gold mine, taking them. The sort of more middle gold mines on the map can be quite important. And there we go, Carnage himself pushing out and making a fort now, and now he has spotted this fort, so he knows what's happening here. Pushing up, doing some damage. I don't know how much he can do to that fort. Forts probably still will require siege to really take down, but he's taken some damage from that fort. Not enough that he's too scared about it really hindering his army, but he's going to keep moving around. Try to protect that fort that he's looking to put down. Cancel those because he's not going to get them up safely, and move them further back. And you can see Striker's response. Really trying to pound up some defense in the middle of the map. But it seems like Carnage has sort of found a hole to break through in the middle of his defenses there, and is going to get round the back. Going to start having a bit of a fight here. He doesn't have his infantry in there because obviously they'll be much slower, but they're coming up to reinforce now, and Striker has seen that this is going down and is trying to stop it. Looks like he's going to be able to. But Carnage, he wants to get this up. He's found a weakness in the sort of defensive line of Striker at the front here, and he wants to put up that fortress right in the center of there to really mess with him. Back at home, both players doing some macro now. And this is now a sort of interesting position because he does have that sort of bulge in his front line there. I can't remember what the technical term for it is, but that does also, in a way, also leave his back a little bit vulnerable to Striker doing some sort of push. And we do see their siege tower. So and we saw earlier Carnage putting down the siege workshops. So we do know he's going to start having some of that sort of stuff soon. We see those fabulous 4th age town centres with all of their resplendent gold decorations sitting at the front line. So that's 4 TCs definitely from Striker, and I assume the same from Carnage. Well, Carnage is actually still in tier 3, so I believe that means he can... I believe you get a TC per age. I think that's a thing. This is looking like a pretty bad position right now from him. Throwing down the building there, I believe that is to get him to the 4th age. So he is going to be going up there kind of soon. But I suspect he has seen perhaps siege towers, and perhaps they are tier 4, and that has caused him to realise that he is behind in that respect and pushed him to catch up. So from my, general RTS knowledge and admittedly limited knowledge of this game specifically, it does look like Striker is in a pretty good position here. Even with that nice aggressive positioning from Carnage, he is ahead, and this is the point where now this sort of late game booming is really going to come into its own, where he can start getting those early setups. Look, there we go. That's that thing right there in the top right over here. That is the trebuchet that isn't a trebuchet, but game mechanic wise is essentially the trebuchet from AoE 2. It's called a Palingtonen, and look, it's firing rocks. It's a big, goofy, cartoony thing. Fires rocks. It's kind of cool. It's like a big ballista thing. The Sea Shower's taking a bit of damage there on the retreat, but eventually getting out. He's got his trebuchet dealing some damage there. You can see these trade routes being set up. This is the traditional late game. I remember there being some debate among a lot of these players. A lot of the Age of Empires Online players really want the market in Empires Apart to be buffed, because this is what they used to. This is their game. Is that you get to your late game and gold runs out on the map, and you start these big trade routes which give you that sort of infinite gold going between them. And he's starting to get some catapults out too, some sort of Venegas or some such. Still chasing away the that's Carnage's response. Like I said, especially I basically understand most of the civs in this game, sort of early mid game, because that's where they'd usually kill me. And then the late game I never got to because I was never good enough, so I don't really know much of the late game units. Yeah, I'd normally get to about having that chariot archer army, and then that's when I'd start getting overrun by just better macro and better late game knowledge. So we have both of our boys in tier 4 now. Striker getting pushed back once more by Carnage's army, which still, to me, looks more fearsome. He just has those big numbers, right? That's what I always loved about that force. You can see the cavalry coming in from one side, the chariot archers at the back, the camel riders getting in, and then we have those catapults right at the back. If you ignore the chariot archers, it sort of feels a little bit orcish to me. I like it. See there as well, something that's always funny, those sneaky battering rams. Just sending a couple battering rams here and there can do it. And there we go. Here's Carnage's favourite unit, the Elephant Rider. This was always the strat in AOM for me, was get to that late game and then spam those elephants, boy. Those big bads. So on the other side we see that taking a little bit of damage. It looks like this TC might go down. I'm not sure if we'll take the fortress as well, but it looks like he was considering trading that early fortress from Carnage. Just trying to get that as a response, but maybe thinks he might take too much damage. Putting down some of those immortal camps for those late game powerful Persian infantry units. Get that Xerxes horde going. Both players now, I believe, drop down quite a bit from max supply, but you'll see that a lot is oh no, look at that Carnage, that full max supply coming in. You see a lot in this game, quick jumps down to 170, 180, and then the build back after fights. But it really looks like Carnage is starting to storm forward now, so we're going to have to see what Striker's going to do to come back from this. He was looking in a really good position, but as soon as Carnage hit tier 4, he just seems to have got this super powerful army. And it just seems like Carnage, with his advantage, maybe didn't manage to do enough damage. He's getting this wall set up. Looks like he might try and defend from behind this wall. Rebuilding that 4th TC in a more defensive position. Setting up that concave here. Going to try and collapse it on this army right as they're in the mouth of that opening. So many catapults though, lots of pullbacks and splits. It does look like the infantry of Carnage's army has pretty much fallen, and it's just left to chariot archers and catapults, but that could be enough. But from Carnage's view, we can see some focus firing there, taking down, it looks like all of the siege towers have gone down. And it's mostly just catapults left. Alright, obviously catapults having to wiggle about a bit to try and get back from these cataphracts. I think they're cataphracts. I don't know. I keep calling them that. I've just like got a glance at their name. I'm not sure if they are, but whatever. Getting away from these heavy cavalry to be able to hit with their minimum range. But now we're getting spearmen just flooding in. Look at that. Some more chariot archers coming in as well, and a ton of spearmen just absolutely flooding in, just to be able to be a wall in front of these catapults. And I think that looks like it really might be the killing blow. It's having this reinforcements now arrive here, and still a good deal. It looks like there was like closer to 6 or 8 catapults at the start, but still 4 of them surviving seems pretty good. No population room left for any catapults because he's filled in so many spearmen to buffer. We see also some archers at the back right here. Some archers and some slingers, or they like have shields and swords, and then they pull out. Oh, are they the immortals? Oh, interesting. Oh no! I clicked the wrong thing. I clicked Twitch. I meant to click full screen. There we go. Whoops. I'd love if I had hotkeys for these, but you know, I don't know if I do. Are they still about synced? Strikers is a little bit faster now. Let's restart this. There we go. It seems like it's about the same now. Is there like a timer? There is a timer at the top. 27:36. Yeah, look, it's about the same. That's about the same. Good. Unfortunately, the the timers are too small for me to see when I'm looking at both of them, so it doesn't actually help that much. So Striker did manage to push off these. If we have a little check of the resources for each player, we have only about 50 workers working right now for Striker. I think that means worker population actually, so I don't need to bother doing the maths I've been doing. 70 workers there from Striker. Carnage's side 85. Of course, because they don't need stone anymore, do they? They don't need stone anymore. If they do, they'll just buy enough to make a thing, and then they'll make a thing. For gold, there's probably not much gold left on the map as this fight starts, and you can see that this fight doesn't look so good. We've got a huge number of immortals. Don't know how much damage this will do, but the front line of Carnage's army, it looks like, wasn't rebuilt enough to go back in for that fight. And having a ton of immortals now, you can see that Carnage has switched. He's no longer pumping out spearmen. It's now those axemen that are up there. Throwing some more boys back into getting wood. I'm interested in whether maybe he has too many workers now. He's not fully maxed, so he can keep making units, but Striker isn't fully maxed either. He's gone up to 80 workers though, so he is now close. So it seems like 80 is about the number they're both looking for, 80 to 90. I have seen in different discords discussions of how many is the correct amount, and I believe there are even players who do like that half split of 100-100 for workers and army, possibly even more earlier. But this is definitely less villagers needed this late. But the interesting thing about this game is because there's so much wood, and food is essentially infinite, and gold is essentially infinite, and wood isn't infinite, but for a long time is essentially infinite because there's so much wood on the map. you actually, like, it's not like StarCraft, where at StarCraft later in the game, like, you do start being like, I need 0 workers eventually, right? Eventually you literally need 0 workers. Like maybe you'll keep a couple of workers to, you know, repair some buildings or something, but even that late in the game you probably won't, right? You just have no workers and just go full army. Whereas in this game, like, I don't think it probably gets there eventually. Even then though, you just have like so many merchants running about, and you'll have so many people just harvesting food from farms that you'll still eventually have them all. So it seems like we have a little lapse period here where both players are just trying to sort out their late game economy, make sure everything's looking good. Is that a wonder as well? Yeah, Striker wonder. I totally missed that, even though it was goddamn saying it in big letters. So Striker has decided his pushes have not been working. He's not been able to get enough of a dent into Carnage's setup. But he's made that fantastic looking wonder. And he's just going to defend the hell out of it. And this is how he's planning to win. This is another thing which actually I spoke with a couple of RTS developers about this. Smaller indie dudes like Jan from Empires Apart and some people from other games on the RTS Discord lovers server, or no, RTS Games lovers server, Discord server, which you should all join. And it is interesting. I really like the wonder if it's correctly sort of balanced and put in an interesting way, where it's like, you obviously can't just like rush wonder or do any sort of really cheesy wonder stuff, but if you're at a point late game into a game like this where you're like, I think his army beats mine late game, you can do a move like this where you really just like bunker down on this one thing, and you're like, it does so many things, man. It gives you these multiple ways of winning, so it's not like I have to push and defeat the enemy. It's like I can hold back and I can win a different way. It can be used as a balancing tool, where it's like, you know, in certain games, you know, in StarCraft at certain times, Zerg have been unbeatable late game, so you just need to beat them before they get there. But then if you get into a position where you can then just like at late game just not have to fight them necessarily. So you can see Striker pushing out as far as possible so that the the catapults don't do too much damage to his structures, perhaps. Getting this big fight, keeping this concave as much as possible. Trying to push in there and snipe some of the catapults. It's interesting. He does need to defend his building, so it makes sense. Even if he loses his whole army, if Carnage can't defeat his army at an appropriate speed, that would be okay. But you see on the other side, Carnage is a pretty big force pushing in here. Looks like he's going to win this for now. He might need to grab some more reinforcements. It looks like Striker has some boys that can come in from the side there, which is interesting. Going to run right around the back of Carnage here. Oh, and he's got on his trebuchet equivalents as well. Ooh, that was a nice little play there by Striker. Got all but one of them, and that one is now around the front side awkwardly. And Striker's pushing in to try and get that, and he's failed, so he's going to back off. But we're coming up to half time on this now. Carnage is managing to push in quite effectively. But Striker is still pretty much a full pop, right? He's still pumping out army. He's still got an economy going back there. But I feel like Carnage did win that fight, so if he can regroup back up to 200 pop and just keep pushing in again and again, he can slowly move this forward, even with all those turrets there. All of those towers. Oof. Oof. Striker Wanderer now under halfway to winning. Got this big army going down there. These trebuchet equivalents do absolute crazy damage to those towers. I believe that tower that it just hit right at the top there was full health, and it just went down in 2. We'll get to see maybe a better example of it here. Firing at that tower at the front. Oh, it didn't hit. It targeted some army. It went and hit there, but we now can't see it because he's moved his vision back. It does get taken out there, but there are 2 more that have come, some reinforcements. So that's good. Incredible damage these things do. Catapult's getting pushed back there as well. Ooh. This is looking more and more like a Striker victory, lads. This is getting stressful near the end here. Carnage backing off. Doesn't feel he has the army quite yet to defend that. An interesting advantage you have by doing this wonder play is that by setting up the wonder play, you make it so that you don't need any of your army population to be siege, right? In a normal fight where you're fighting in the middle of the map, both of you will want some siege to be able to push into the enemy's base at certain times, you know, if both of you are planning to do that. But if you're never planning to push into the enemy anyway, and your whole plan is defense, then you don't need any siege. Oh, we got some deleting of unneeded population going on there. He's got down to 2 minutes in on his timer, 2 minutes 30, and so it looks like he's deciding just to clear out workers and unneeded population to try and just fill more army. Down to only 41 workers. As you see on Carnage's side, he needs to keep pumping out these armies to push, so he's still a bit higher, although he's only at 55 now. He's realised that this is going to be something that will be happening. A little bit of start stepping there, pulling back these horses. Got his trebuchet equivalents, his big siege catapults, posted up real far back now. And we are in the last 2 minutes of the game now. Oh, see, that's something I like as well. Oh no. A little bit of Lagarino there. You can see that the screen is slightly ahead now, so I won't look at both. You can see the army coming around the back as well. This could be another really strong side swipe if he manages to get on these 2 catapults at the back, which it looks like he is going to do. Absolutely surrounded them. Even got the flank on the back of Carnage's soldiers here. And that's done it. That sideswipe was the move. GG Striker. GG Striker. So yeah, thanks for watching. Both players checking out the thing, deciding on another map. They're going to go do another map, so not sure if I will bother to move on to doing another map of them, especially if it looks like Carnage is going to pick Celtic, and I have no idea how they play. But yeah, this was fun as a one-off that I might try. And yeah, just like, you know, I haven't done any RTS coverage for a while, so I thought I might just take the advantage when I had one and just go get something recorded, and hopefully we'll see more RTS stuff coming soon. So thanks for watching. Remember to join the RTS Games Lovers Discord. Remember to like, subscribe, whatever it is, to the YouTube stuff. Check me out on Twitch at Moody for the Win. And if you want to play some of Age of Empires Online, then look up Project Celeste, I believe it is. Age of Empires Online.